Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on this continued coverage of the Anambra governorship election. You're on to Channels Television. I will bringing you some of those things you need to know as far as this election is concerned. It does look like that we have a stalemate, and the election continues. We thought that it would have ended at 2:30 p.m. voting, that is, but because of some reasons, it has to continue. I'll allow you to again listen to the resident electoral commissioner of INEC, Dr. Kichuku Orji, whom we spoke to earlier on, and there was another press conference. But it was when we spoke with him earlier that he explained the reasons why they had to extend the timing. He spoke about the disruption and the resistance they saw in some communities, and also the failure coming from some of the transport companies that were supposed to work with them. I'll allow you to take a listen to Dr. Kichuku Orji, the rep of INEC in Anambra State.
Part of the reports we got regarding our deployment in the different polling units, we were not able to fully deploy in some of the polling units, and because of several reasons. One, we were prevented by community members in some local governments from deploying, so we had resistance from community members. In others, we had our materials, election materials, snatched and destroyed. Example is Oba 1 and Oba 2 wards, RAs, in Idemili South local government, where materials for up to 57 polling units were snatched away.
So what are you going to do in that respect? Do you have alternative plans? Because if materials are snatched and destroyed, what would you do? Do you have alternative to replace them? Or what are you doing to the election in those areas? Are you postponing election in those areas, or what are you doing exactly?
This is a decision that will be taken after this, but the process has to be completed, and then a thorough assessment of what has happened will take place. And then the commission will now be in a position to state the next line of action. I don't consider them major security issue, because the security situation has been very pleasant to us. In fact, it's a pleasant surprise to many who expected that there will be breakdown of law and order in Anambra in the course of this election. But you can see that everything went on quite smoothly, quite peacefully. The challenges we had were that some of the transporters that we had made arrangements with and paid their sign-on fees upfront had reneged and declined to offer their services. And some of the ad hoc staff that we had recruited could not continue, dropped out in the process.
All right. So you heard the President Electoral Commissioner, Dr. Orji, there on some of the challenges they face. There's a lot of it relating to security. And that's why our next conversation is about security. I'm now being joined by Mr. Echenge Cheng. He's the Commissioner of Police in Anambra State. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And lovely to call that name. I hope I pronounced it properly.
Yeah, you did.
All right. And Mr. Zenwagu, who's been detained here in our studio. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Nwagu. And also we have Mr. Obio Everstos. He's the State Commandant of the NSCDC. Thank you so much for coming. You're welcome. All right. First and foremost, the Red tried to be diplomatic. He said he won't consider what they face today as a major security threat. But we know it's major in the sense that that is some of the reasons why election has to be extended in the state. Have you made any arrest in that respect?
We haven't made any arrest. And if I heard the well, Dr. Orji, what he said was that whatever happened today, he didn't consider the security problem. And he gave kudos. Security, that was it.
That was why I said he was trying to be diplomatic.
Well,
but if you heard what he said, that several hundreds of ballot papers were snatched. and they were disallowed. That's the wreck. That was the man who was in charge of the election.
I'm the commissioner of police.
So you've not heard
that. You should tell me about that.
There's no synergy between both of you.
There is. I am the co-chair of INEC in this state.
But that was what he said on camera.
And we spoke severally today.
But are you aware that there was some disruption? People were not allowed to go into some communities in the state.
I didn't get that report.
So it brings us to the agency commission need not be on ground words and key, in the sense that if Mkwachukwuoji saying that ballot box were snatched in Germany area and that and the commissioner was not aware, then
there's a problem.
It raises huge question
about, so that's why I'm asking the question, Mr. Nwagu.
It raises huge question about coordination, and I don't think this is the time to be territorial in terms of protecting your territory. If the police, NSDC, will deploy 34,000 men for this election, and NSDC will deploy 20,000, according to the deputy commander and deputy national commandant that was here earlier today. It calls to question why we should be able to tolerate it, and this has to do with service delivery and value for money.
All right, because CP, you know the reason why himself and I, we've had this conversation a lot today, and you know, we had a lot of optimism. Everybody gave a lot of support to the police, to the security agencies. The trust was there. You know, we're excited that you're going to deliver on your promises. But the question is, there is a major snag on the process because there is an extension of the timing.
Sure. I want to think that more than 90-something% of the problem we have today was not security problem. It was INEC related. Talk about transportation, talk about ad hoc staffs that were supposed to be or man the polling booth. And at the time they were supposed to be there, they were not there. You talk about transporters who refused to convey materials except they are paid their money, and it took them time to do this. Some of the places that you never had election was because, when the materials got to the place late. So these are not security-related issues.
But, I mean, did your men also report any instance of resistance of some community not allowing INEC staff to gain access?
I don't have that report.
That's one of the reasons INEC gave for the extension.
I can categorically state that. I don't have that report. I don't have it.
So, I mean, what report do you have that you can tell us?
The report I had was that security was everywhere. And election was going on smoothly. As I speak, they are the collation center trying to collate. And after that, they will come to, okay, here. I don't have any serious report of any incident.
No reports at all, security-wise?
Maybe, of course. There were maybe instances where you had a little bit of, infraction somewhere, and quickly we took care of them. But not this extent that we are hearing here, that it is because of security that the election has been shifted tomorrow. I don't agree with that assessment.
Mr. Obio, what's your assessment? Your people, because your people were manning critical infrastructure. That's your mandate. Did you get any reports otherwise?
I very much you know, it's also on the field at the national critical infrastructure. We were actually in place all over them, and we were talking of coordination when the REC has observed any infraction. He is supposed to let the security be aware. As far as I'm concerned, we have not had anything. Otherwise, he is supposed to have given that information to the necessary, agency or authority that will have, quickly gone there to find out if actually it is true. But I have one thing to say, that in a place like election. Before now, we've been having, some sort of this type of thing you are mentioning about, and it doesn't call for any, serious questioning compared with the high security network we placed today to making sure that the election went on smoothly. So by and large, it's new to me to, hear there is such thing. But I cannot say for sure whether it is 100% because the matter ought to have been brought to the notice of the agency. I would have quickly gone in there to see what actually is happening. And for the fact that
there were okay, CP, you want
yes, let me add to that. Throughout the day, we had this problem of dealing with what I would want to call fake news. We saw online that there was shooting and killing at Kulobia, which was not true. We saw online incident at Uyi, which was not true. We also saw an incident or heard of an incident in northern Idemili, which was not true. And we have reported all that. And we know it is not true, that people were just out there maybe to cause panic or to peddle news that was false. And some of this we have also corrected, taken up with INEC today in their office. Because I have an assistant commissioner of police in INEC. And when issues came up, I know I called him. I said, this is what I'm hearing. Go find out, because what I have is not exactly what you have. And eventually, he dealt with the wreck. And it was just what we got. So I don't know where this is coming from, actually.
Have you tried to meet with the REC since this extension of time? Because one of the questions I asked him, you know that the IG gave an order of restriction of movement from 11:59 a.m.
yesterday
to 11:59 today.
Yes.
But if elections are going to continue,
yes.
Do you have an update of whether or not there will be extension of the curfew that has been placed on this state?
I don't think that will happen. For one, it's like more than 95% of the elections have been done. So if at all election is going to be held in those places that were not done today, I'm sure we just need to provide security and control. And the issue of security in this state is not only about election. We have been here, we have provided security, and we made plans for this election, before the election, during the election, and post-election. So we are still on ground. So if the election is extended tomorrow, I'm sure for the fact that it's just a few places, we will be able to conduct it without having to restrict movement in the whole state.
Did you experience the issue of this transport who did not report at any place that you wanted to take?
To the best of my knowledge, unless the time the wreck has said so, we know that there was heavy flow of traffic, transporters hired to be on ground for them. Everywhere was, agog with activities of INEC, voters, security.
So, I mean, is it that what INEC, the reason INEC gave not true?
No, I can't say that is not true because
I'm saying that the reasons for the late commencement and the technology problems they have. I mean, since you also infrastructure, infrastructure is part of. I don't know if you experience.
You know that
has read the failure of these infrastructures. So.
You know that every one of the INEC has its own role to play. The security agency has its own role to play. The voters have their own role to play. So on the part of INEC, maybe they have discovered that transportation is their problem. And so it's supposed to be peculiar to them. They have to sort it out. Like we, the security, we have our own challenges. We have our challenges before, during, and after, which we are contending with. And by God's grace, we'll be able to give you the results as we are seeing it today. So if we are talking of transportation, it's not our business, because it's a business of INEC to hire transporters. to hire people that can do whatever it is. So every agency or every department has its own role.
What are you hearing from your men that are on the field at the moment? Some of them that are supposed to have moved from polling units may still be there, supposed to have gone to the local government areas or the collation center.
On my own area, we didn't have any problem with transporting our personnel to their various polling units.
I'm saying your men, because now there's an extension of the timing of the voting. So your men will still have to remain, because you deploy some of them to the polling units. They have to remain there.
Yes.
Have you gotten any reports?
Yes, for security reasons, for security's sake, we have to, if the REC has communicated the agency now, because I know maybe it could be as a result of a little gap in communication, that could have resulted why the security agencies are not aware of this little restaurant now. By and large, it's very little. So if in event it's really true that such time has been extended, definitely we have already, we had it as a rumor. I won't fail. It's a rumor. And
it's not a rumor.
We should also, we should also bear in mind that, like the CP said, fake rumors abound. But let us believe somehow. So if that is the case, it means we have to keep our men there, making sure that things go smoothly at the last count.
Mr. Nwago, there is a major issue here in relation, because security are holding their ground that we've done our work. This problem is not security. If you guys thought that there will be a breakdown of law and order, you'll be disappointed. There won't be any such a thing. Any of such, but it is where we did not expect that this problem was coming from. Your assessment of security situation, Mr. Nwago?
Well, like I said, I think the security agencies were battling extraneous threats. The attention was heavy on extraneous threats that were going to happen. But if the resident electoral commissioner will pinpoint Oba 1, Oba 2. So my expectation is very simple. From what we're told, we're supposed to have security men at the polling units, unarmed policemen, security agents at the polling unit. And then at the outer layer, armed men. So if that infraction happens, I think it's important that we identify the folks who were deployed, the security agents who were deployed to that particular place. Because now there's a concentration. You know where the official is talking about. So when I talk about coordination, I'm talking about that getting back. Because we don't expect in this situation that you get a report after the event. Because people are already supposed to be manning that particular place. So if the man said their materials were snatched in those two places, the question that I will ask as an ordinary Nigerian is, what then happened to the folks who were supposed to protect the voters there, the materials, and the men? So it's about our attitude to service delivery. And what you have is that territorialism. I say, oh, if the man says they snatched my material, everybody is now saying, you know, I'm not aware, I don't know. But it happened. And we have an extension of time. And if we have an extension of time, what we need to do is to understand that we're all in this together. I talk for the security. I guarantee, I'm talking about, you know, boasting about their capacity to provide, secure the voters on the basis of my interaction with the commissioner and some other security agencies. If there's any drop in that, there has to be an explanation. And the way to do that is not to say, oh, I don't know, this person has not carried us along. That's the Nigerian thing. We should be able to deal, because there are policemen, security agents who were posted to Oba 1 and Oba 2. We should ask them questions. Did this happen? If it happened, why didn't you get back to your superiors to let them know that it happened? Did you explain that? That's important.
CP, you want to react to that?
I want to really react to that. Before this election, people thought that Anambra was the battleground. In fact, people came into Anambra to experience that not what they expected. And for today's election, people thought that Anambra was going to burn. And at the end of the day, what do we have? The security agencies will be commended for a thorough job we have. I am still saying that the reason why the election is shifted or postponed till tomorrow is not a security issue. You know that. I discuss things like me and Rek, we talk morning, afternoon, and evening. And I know what we discussed. You don't have your logistics problem, which was not taken care of, which you took care of course. But because of fear in the people, they didn't come out. And I know that there were instances, even in Oyi here, that we had to use our police vehicle to convey materials to where they are supposed to go. But this issue is not a security problem. I'm not saying we didn't have pockets of fractions here and there, which you shall, but the response was prompt and care of them.
All right. I think we should take a break because the tension that we're seeing as relating to the anxiety that the election is not concluding as at the time that we envisage is not giving us that feeling that we expected as at this moment. But we'll take a break. And there are other dimensions to this conversation on the security that we're focused on this part of the program. Stay with us, everyone. Please, the continued coverage of the Anambra governorship election 2021. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Everyone on our continued coverage of Anambra governorship election. The CP of Anambra State, Mr. Chenge Cheng, Mr. Ezenwa Nwagu, and Mr. Obiyo Everstrus is the commandant of the NSCDC in Anambra State. Thank you so much. Do you think there were some kind of disparity in your deployment? Or can you give us a rationale behind your deployment? Because one would think that based on the voting population, that's how your deployment would have gone. Was that how you deployed?
Before this election, we did our threat analysis of every. What you have just said was a part of it, but the major, the threat level in every part of it. Anambra is bordered by 6 different states. And some of those states are more vulnerable, like Abia, Imo, Enugu. We took that into consideration because we discovered that most of the problems come from our side. They strike in here, kill people, and then get out. So we had to concentrate, especially more at the border towns, which was mostly the southern Anambra South kind of. So that was the concentration, the threat level.
Okay. That prompted
that
informed your deployment.
Yes, deployment.
So let me ask you, you've made some arrests before now.
Yes.
Were some of those violent before the election related?
Not really. This is the place where we have the IPOP threat. We also have those who hide under IPOP to commit crimes. And then the political aspect, that the polity was heated up because of the election. And then the issue of cultism and then the thuggery aspect. But for the arrests that we made, they were not political nature, because we had made arrest of a commander of IPOP somewhere, and also picked people in some other places for related issues. So that wasn't political, because there was no reason why you pick up somebody because he has political
Dr. Akoyili was killed recently. What can you tell us about that incident?
The incident actually happened before I resumed as.
Any update that you have gotten so far?
Yes, investigation is still ongoing, and there won't be able to discuss that here because kind of lot of way.
Well, arrests have been made, are they?
Arrests have not been made, but I am sure from what we have that very soon we'll be able to make arrests because we have intel on certain things and also certain people that we think must have been involved in that particular act, and we have lost
people of interest. You've identified them in that case. There are a few pockets of incidents also that happened, which also stoked the already tensed atmosphere. And that's why I was asking whether or not they were politically related, because politicians were already saying that they were politically motivated. Is that true?
Well, I know that during an election like this, a lot of issues come up. But I don't think that any of the arrests was related, and I don't think that it was that bad.
All right. So the reason why I'm asking this question is that for a lot of people who live in Anambra, they thought, oh, it's the election that has brought the tension. But after the election, you will see everything without. And when you say that it is not related to the election, or it's not politically related, that means that it's an existential problem. Is an issue that can linger much after the election. Is that true?
No, I'm not saying so. It was the problem. The problem was there before, and I'm not taking credit, but I know that for the past 1 month I've been here, or 3 weeks I've been here as it. Anambra has.
What did you do?
I'm coming to that. Anambra has been very relative, and so the issue of maybe that tension being raised or the level of threat being raised before the election was not really there. What did we do? The security agencies came together, and did a robust analysis and put up a plan on how to checkmate what is happening in Anambra. Synergy has been perfect amongst intels have been coming in, and we have been working on it. Persons of interest have been picked up. They have talked to us, and we have extended our investment. So I think that most persons knew that whatever leverage I had before, that was not going to be the party.
Because it worried a lot of people that the light of the light of the nation may have been dimmed by this sort of violence. Will it shine brighter like it used to be after now?
Yes, I think it's right. Because we are still working to improve on whatever we have done.
You think that after this election, things will go back to normal?
I am not saying that things will return back to a perfect normal. That's not what I'm saying. But that situation will be better than what we have present. Because we're working. The military is working. Military, I mean the army, the navy, police, PSS. We meet almost twice every week in my office. Just review threats, review what we have done, see where we didn't get it right, and being proactive to be able to preempt.
Does it suffice to say most of the violence and incidents in Anambra State are mostly external, they are not usually internal?
Yes, you cannot say they are totally external. I wouldn't say so.
All right. Mr. Nwago, for today, what big lesson do you think we can take out of this election, security-wise?
For me, it's community resilience. I saw the Anambra people determined that they want to have, and that gladdened my heart. The other thing that I have been reflecting on when it concerns security, I don't want to see us treating crimes that are committed during election differently. Every crime, whether it's committed during election or, should be treated as a crime. So people cannot hide, because there is also that tendency for people who have scores to settle. The pre-election observation, the third pre of Yaga Africa, identified among other things that that violence was going to be a threat. But inside that threat narrative is that you also have issues around intercommunal clashes that existed. You had issues of cult-related things. So all of them were masking under this election situation to cause havoc. So we need to have communities that are strong, that are resilient, that are determined. Because even if you bring all the security, if the community people, we've seen examples where the community people want to find ballot and the community people resisted them and said they can't do that. So now with the kind of security architecture that we have seen in the state, I don't think we should take it out immediately after the election. I think it's important to mop up and still deal with the existential challenges that exist in the issue of cultism, issue of communal crisis, and take them out. Because otherwise, you will think that you are dealing with an extraneous situation. But like the Yorubas will say, what is the if? Just beneath it, even if people come from outside, if there is no conducive environment to hold to fester within them, they will not. This election has proven that Anambra people are resilient, courageous, and determined, and I think we should praise them for that.
Would you advise that this exercise continues at night, considering the security situation in Anambra State?
Really, you see, yes. I think considering the situation which by God's grace be able to bring down the various for this exercise to continue staying overnight. I think the Electoral Commission has have second look, if at all there is need. On our side, like we said, we have provided all that is necessary for us to bring about conducive voting, conducive election, conducive environment. So, depends if they so wish. But on my own side, I don't think keeping the election the night. By the way, who will even like to come out in the night to queue up to cast a vote? There are certain areas that if the challenges are not much, have to be overlooked. If actually he thinks the challenges are such that can come up, extend the exercise beyond the normal time, it's left for them to, take a decision about it and communicate to us. We will still be on ground to do what we have to do.
Well, I mean, the CP said there were no arrests made. Is that the case also in your own case?
We never made any arrest of any type attending the
Were there any kind of infraction?
No, there wasn't any.
No attempt on any critical infrastructure?
There wasn't.
No report whatsoever from your men?
Detailed reports I have got across the state, we've never had any case of any infraction on the critical national infrastructure, both at the federal, located here, the state, located here, and as well the local government here as well. We have not had any infraction about
There were attacks, a few attacks on FRSC, DSS, in Anambra.
When?
A few weeks ago.
Few weeks. Can you be precise? Because
I can't remember precisely the local government area, but there were.
Yes.
INEC, thank you so much. There were. I mean, from your own assessment, what did you do did you reinforce security on that?
Yes, yeah, actually, nobody is not aware of what the challenges we are passing through as of then till today, when God has, given us the courage to stand where we are. There, security was there, and maybe, a criminal is always a criminal, can disguise in any way to foment trouble at the slightest excuse you will not want. So, in those cases, we stand ahead of time. But quite unfortunately, the infraction that took place that time, I don't think it will ever repeat again. But maybe we're taking unaware, but it cannot repeat.
CP, is there any, because I asked the civil defense commandant whether or not it's okay to go ahead with the exercise at this time.
If you ask me, considering our peculiar security situation in the state, it is not okay. But we took care of this because we had contingency and because we know that sometimes, whether we like it or not, the process will go into the night. And I tell you why we are not afraid of anything is that all the securities that were at the polling booths have all been collapsed to the rack center. So as I speak, we have enough security. Even if the process will go on till daybreak, I am sure there's not going to be any problem.
Even when, even the collation, would you advise that it goes in? Because usually we always keep vigil when it comes to election collation.
Well, if INEC want to continue, ours is to provide security. And I'm saying that we have enough on ground to provide that security for the process to go on seamless.
Mr. Nwagu. The question, what he just said, is given, there's a caveat. Well, you may not go ahead at night. It will be good to do it in broad daylight.
This show is INEC show. Let's take it. Yeah. Like the CP said, he's the co-chair the Intelligence Consultative Committee and Elections. But in the pyramid of election, INEC occupies the topmost. So if for instance, even if the election had gone on well, coalition could enter into the night. So this is what we already know. You understand? So if they extend the time in some places, it can't be in all the places. If they extend the time in some of them, like I said, the challenge is not so much about security. The challenge is about the determination of the community, the people themselves, who I saw today did canopies, brought chairs to sit down to vote, brought refreshments for themselves and the rest of them. If they are determined they want to go ahead, the security have no choice than to ensure that they are protected, and that's why we are all here. So for instance, Yaga has 21 collation observers set ready, who have been trained to go and observe collation, and it's supposed to. If we are to have if the election had ended at 2:30, we're expecting results tomorrow. And sometimes even the INEC results, what the collection center should be set for the night. Sometimes you start by 2 a.m. And I saw you sometimes putting your head off.
The difference here is voting and the collation.
So during the voting things, people who are already on the queue. The last person on the queue has to vote.
That was done. Everything was completed.
But if in their assessment, like these places that they are mentioning, they need to capture those places and get things going there, it's their call. But there is no thing, the law does not prohibit them from continuing tomorrow morning. It's what has happened severally. You can finish up the voting tomorrow and then collate the remaining of those areas and then announce the result.
All right.
So we are not in very difficult situation.
But not just in a comfortable situation.
We are not in a difficult.
Let's wrap up now. Mr. Obio, what are your final thoughts on the situation and going forward?
My findings, we can see it that the findings are all there for us to see it that we are on the right course, and actually the situation on ground is very conducive for us to move forward. you were asking a question, how do we do immediately after? Are we going to still replace the security situation as it is today beyond the election period? And that, my answer there is that it is. We are going to even provide more. So we are envisaging a situation that is going to be more, understanding, more peace, more, progress in the state as today has, given us.
I want to congratulate. You see, with all the bashing and all of that happened, I think that his men and some of the other security just discharged their responsibility creditably, at least in warding off substantially the external threat. That the other issues, pockets of things that happen within the polling unit, things that we know for elections. There is no way you would have elections and you will see some people trying to snatch ballot box or all of those things. The bigger fear that we had was the one that that made it difficult for quite a lot of people. But incidentally, all the hotels here are taking. There is no, so sometimes when people still say they were feeling unsafe and they still travel down, it really worries me what they are thinking. And in Edo State, we didn't see the number of donor partners that are in this election. You were there because of the intel about how. But in Anambra, incidentally, we have over 500 different observer groups on ground in Anambra, and that for me is a signal that sometimes, even when fake news travels very far, the truth confronts it practically and directly.
Chased after it and sometimes overtakes it. So, Mr. Cheng, I'll give you the last word on the program tonight. It does look like you have a badge of honor, and deservedly, you deserve it. A lot of people will say, in the case of what we've seen today, because if there were violence, if there's bloodletting, we probably will not be sitting down to talk in this manner. We probably will be talking in another kind of scenario. But what would your final thought be on the program tonight?
For the security, I think we did very well. Because, like I said,
you're marking your own script now.
Yeah, it's the physical something.
It's there for you to see, right?
You will see. So like I said before now, people thought that Anambra was a battleground. There are many people who thought that there won't be election today. But we are proud to say that election has been held, and the situation we find ourselves is a comfortable one. And whatever is the left over, I am sure we're going to do better. We want to serve the people of this. We want to give them the security. And also we are proud to be part of it, that the people of Anambra, the people of Anambra came out, vote, exercise their franchise, to elect the government that is their own.
All right.
So we are good to
Mr. Cheng, the Commissioner of Police in Anambra State, Mr. Izenwawagu, our very good friend. You are now released. I won't hand you over to the Commissioner of Police, as we spoke about off camera. But because you are my very good friend, I will let you go in peace. Thank you so much on a lighter note. Thank you so much, Mr. Izenwawagu, for staying with us for this time. Thank you so much. And Mr. Obio, the Commandant of the NSCDC in Anambra State, thank you so much also for coming. And I must sincerely thank our viewers for staying with us through these 2 hours of the coverage this evening. It is not over. We are still in your face, and we are in your ears to give you all you need to know in this continued coverage of Anambra Governorship Election 2021. We'll be live for you as soon as we get updates for you. Just stay with us, everyone, and look at your screen. You get information, and watch out. We'll be back on air as soon as we get some information for you. I'm sure Kimale. Thank you so much on behalf of the crew here in Awka and in Lagos. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Stay with us. Our continued coverage on Anambra Governorship Election as we hand you over to Lagos. actually continue our programming that we continue. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.